morning, Chile. Good afternoon, the Netherlands. Welcome everyone from all around the globe joining us today. My name is Stephanie Schuitenmaker, and today I will be your moderator. I represent Holland, CIRCO and Hotspot, and together with the Embassy of the Netherlands, EuroChile, the Plastic Pact, and Invest Chile, we organize this virtual gathering to talk about opportunities for collaboration between Chile and the Netherlands on plastics and sustainable packaging. Before I proceed, I quickly want to guide you through the guidelines during the webinar. Please select your language interpretation, English or Spanish. Below in the menu bar, you can see the globe. Just click it and choose English or Spanish, and don't click mute original audio. During the webinar, feel free to ask your questions at all time in the Q&A section. Our speakers will do their best to answer them during the webinar right away. If you have a specific question for a specific speaker, please mention for which speaker the question is. If you have any technical issues, you see a number below you can use to call, and one of my colleagues will help you. So this webinar is one in a series of 3, and it's part of the international trade mission between the Netherlands and Chile. The other 2 webinars on agro-food and water management we already did last week, and they can be rewatched on the Holland Circular Hotspot YouTube channel. After this webinar, you will soon receive all the information to watch it back and also to watch this one back. And of course, also about the next steps, because today it doesn't end with this 3rd webinar in the series. We will also have matchmaking in the beginning of 2021, but you will hear about that later. So today you will get an insight in what the Netherlands is already doing, but also what Chile is already doing, with contributions by Holland Circular Hotspot's Freek van Eijk, CIRCO's Pieter van Os, who will let you rethink plastics and shows how it starts with design. But you will also get an insight in the local context with EuroChile, with the Plastic Pact, but also with some local companies. Edelpa and Nestlé will tell you how they are dealing with plastics and packaging and how circular economy plays a role in that. The next stop is 2 examples of circular economy in practice from Up, who is upcycling plastics, and Sweep Smart, who is more about waste management. Then we proceed to a Q&A, and we will have some closing words, but last but not least, the next steps, what is going to happen after this webinar. But first, I want to give the floor to our ambassador in Chile, Harman Idema, for some formal words of welcome. Harman, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you very much for the great job you've been doing in moderating this 3rd webinar now. I was very impressed with the first 2, so thank you very much for that. And thank you very much to Holland Circular Hotspot for having this great cooperation on these webinars. And also, of course, EuroChile, Invest Chile, and Circular Plástico. These are all our partners in this webinar today. And as Stephanie was saying, these are only not a series of 3 webinars. It is actually virtual trade missions. And I'd like to welcome you to this last part of this virtual trade mission. That it is virtual has advantages. You don't have to take the travel time. You don't have to suffer the jet lag. And you don't have to worry, and especially with circular economy, we are worried about that, about the CO2 emissions. So these are the advantages. The disadvantage, of course, is that otherwise we would have loved to serve you some Chilean wine, especially to all these Dutch companies that would have come to Chile. But we are very happy that this is a much easier way to bring Chilean and Dutch companies together. I will shortly introduce Chile to you. I will do that in just a few slides, and I will also go a little bit into the connection with the Netherlands. If we look at Chile from a glance to begin with, you see that in terms of inhabitants, it's about the same as the Netherlands. In terms of area, Chile is a lot larger than the Netherlands. Of course, we both have the coastline, but the coastline in Chile is about 5,000 kilometers. The government is a presidential republic with a multi-party system, and it's the richest country, together with Panama, of Latin America. It is also a member of the OECD, and Chile is often considered an island. And this is because on the one hand, you have the ocean, and the other hand, you have the mountain range that is also the border with Argentina. And so you really get a island feeling. I wouldn't say Chile is very tropical, but it is a beautiful country to visit. And I put some of the pictures in this presentation. So we go to the next slide. If you look at Chile from an economic perspective, we see one of the most stable, if not the stablest, economy in Latin America. It has a solid macroeconomic policy. It is an export-oriented economy. It is benefiting from an open economy in the world. It has more than 60 bilateral trade agreements. And the last decades, it has been one of the most fastest growing economies in the region. Lately, it has been a little bit less, but I think that's also because it has become such a rich country that these large numbers of growth is very hard to maintain. The poverty has also decreased tremendously. This is really the miracle of Chile, that the poverty has brought down so much, from 40% in 2000 to 8% in 2017. But of course, there is still a large inequality in the country. And this is was also part of the reason why there were protests in the end of last year, and has led to the constitutional reform process that's taking place now. In terms of but again, if you talk about inequality, Chile is like average in Latin America. Latin America is a very unequal continent, but within that, Chile is quite average. The ease of doing business and all the corruption rankings and all of these kind of rankings, usually Chile ranks top or in the top 3 in Latin America. Unemployment has been going down, or has been going up a bit because of the Corona crisis, but is foreseen to be getting better again next year. Inflation has been stable. We go to the next slide. And there you will see who are the most important foreign direct investors in Chile, and that is the US, Canada, Spain, and at the 4th place, Netherlands. So we are quite an important economic player in Chile. And if you look where Chile brings its exports, where it exports to, you can see that more than half goes to Asia, with a large chunk for China, then the United States, and then Europe. And within Europe, the Netherlands is the 2nd important export destination. Of course, a lot of these exports also come through Rotterdam. Then we go to the next slide. Let's take a look at Chilean climate change, because it is such an important topic for the world, but also for Chile, because with the Netherlands, because it's so much below sea level, Chile is in the top 10 countries who are most vulnerable to climate change. And Chile aspires to be climate neutral in 2050. They are both, Holland and Chile are both fighting for more ambition in the implementation of the Paris Agreement. And Chile is actually advocating for the integration of circular economy in the climate agenda. And this is actually a personal priority of President Pieter. So this is actually quite high on the agenda of the Chilean government. Then if we look specifically at plastics, and we go to the next slide, then you will see that there's also a lot of attention for plastics in the circular economy. There's been a big promotional campaign to say goodbye to the plastic bags. This has actually been done in a very short period of time and without a lot of complaints from the Chilean public. They have actually accepted it very well. And of course, but that's the same in Holland and other countries, you still see a lot of plastic in supermarkets and in other places. It's still being used, but it's a first step. And let's hope that the next step will go fast. There are several initiatives on plastics. There's a special law for the responsibility of producers of packaging materials, of course, and the producers of the products. There's also a roadmap for circular economy. There is a plastics pact, and I think we will hear more of that today in this webinar. And there's also a lot of, and it's increasingly, they are there, recycling points. However, at the same time, you can look at all these great initiatives, great policies, but the implementation, the concrete implementation, is something that still needs a lot more attention. And I think this is where Holland, with its practical experience, can really help out. And we've also helped Chile already, supported them with knowledge from our ministry to the Chilean ministries, but also with companies and other organizations. So I go to my last slide, just to give you a little bit of a background. While I think you're looking at the Torres del Paine mountains beautifully in Chile, what do we do to support Dutch companies? We do a Netherlands branding, so we bring the Netherlands to Chile. There's not a lot of, the Chileans don't know that much about the Netherlands, like the Netherlands doesn't know that much about Chile. But we help also to create a level playing field, that international companies get the same treatment as local companies. We have a lot of direct services like sector studies, matchmaking. We establish contacts, we add trade questions, and we do this often together with the Holland House. And this is a recent initiative. It's kind of like a Chamber of Commerce 2.0. They organize networking events and services for company. Of course, the COVID situation is making it all more digital. And actually, together with the Holland House, we as the embassy have set up an e-embassy. And you can find it in nlinchile.com, where you see a platform with all the information regarding trade with Chile, between Chile and Holland. So if you ever want to, instead of getting a cup of coffee at the embassy, which at this moment is impossible, at least go to NL in Chile. It's like getting the digital cup of coffee from the embassy. And if you want to get in touch with us, of course, here we have 2 email addresses at the bottom of the slide. And with that, I like to finish my presentation. Welcome you all again to this webinar, the 3rd in a row about circular economy. Let's hope we can get some more cooperation going between Chile and the Netherlands, especially in the area of plastics. Thank you very much. I give the word back to Stephanie.
Well, thank you so much for your inspiring introduction, Harman. We now thank you also for these gorgeous visuals you showed us from Chile. We now proceed to my highly appreciated colleague from Holland Circular Hotspot, Director Mr. Freek van Eijk, will talk about how circular economy approaches in the plastic sector can benefit Chile. Freek, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you also, Mr. Ambassador. Let's go to the next slide, please. As said, my name is Freek van Eijk and I'm Director of Holland Circular Hotspot, probably one of the nicest jobs there are in the world after being Ambassador in Chile, of course. And we try to make circular economy happen all over the globe. And because that's important, because it doesn't make sense to make a circular island of the Netherlands if the rest of the world goes down the drain. We need Chile to be circular as well. And we do that by sharing best practices from business. We share the insights and tools from knowledge institutes, but also the hard-learned lessons from our government. Next one, please. And as Harman has introduced Chile to you, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the Netherlands, because it's a strange country. Actually, it shouldn't exist. It's really situated in a vulnerable delta, but it has advantages as well. We had to work together to keep our feet dry since the Middle Ages, and it makes us very collaborative. We were densely populated, early industrialized, so we had to work together as well and be innovative to keep our cities livable and to keep our economy viable. And then we don't have any resources, so it makes very much sense to go circular, to keep resources in the loop as long as possible. And now we're also very aware of what's happening with plastics. And all this, let's say, innovation, collaboration, and pragmatism can be applied there as well. Next, please. Now, I will be only Dr. Doom for 30 seconds in this presentation, and that's this one. It's because plastic is a fantastic material, but we cannot continue the way we're doing, with only 14% being recycled. 1/3 of all plastics ends up in the plastic soup, is leaking away. 40% is landfilled, or 40% is incinerated. So we can't continue like that. The plastic soup, microplastics, it's an economical, ecological, and health time bomb. So business as usual is not an option. Next, please. There is good news as well. Because if you look in the value chain, from the beginning to the value chain to the end, circular economy can help here. And it can help everywhere. It can help in Ghana, it can help in Vietnam, in the Netherlands, but also in Chile. Because we can go bio-based if you look at different business models. We can, with design, we can phase out lots of issues already. And you will hear more about that from Pieter van Os. we can mechanically recycle plastics, we can chemically recycle plastics, and we keep them, of course, before that, keep them in the loop as long as possible. So already today, we can do a lot. And that's happening actually. Next one, please. But there is one thing which I like to tell you, it's the lessons learned from the Netherlands, that it's not an easy game to be in the plastic business. It asks really for collaborative effort from everybody. For something to be, for recycled to be applied actually, it needs to be collected, it needs to be sorted, it needs to be upgraded and actually used. Now to do that, we need a government which sets regulation like EPR. And it's not only setting regulation, it's also the compliance. It's a local community who has to communicate to inhabitants that why they can't get free plastic bags anymore, how to separate their waste. And the sorters and recyclers of this world, hopefully with Dutch technology, have to make qualities that actually industry can use, that it's applied really at a high quality level. So we need also the big brands to phase out problematic plastic. We need the big brands to start using recycled, even when the oil price is low. So we need everybody on board. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And with plastics, we really have to go far. Next one, please. Let me look a little bit from a distance at Chile. Well, first of all, the point of departure is that there is, let's call it, room for improvement. So there's 11.8% valorization for packaging. Yeah, that can be better, actually. In the Netherlands, we are over 50% at this moment. But there's lots of good news. There is an EPR law. There is a plastic pact. There is a roadmap. And if I look what's already been in the program, if you check all the boxes, lots of the boxes make sense. It's to innovate and design out problematic packaging. It's the vision that all plastic packaging should be reusable, recyclable, or compostable. And that there actually are targets that already 1/3 should actually be reused, recycled, or compostable. So it's a short-term action. And there's even a vision that there should be 25% recycled. You will hear a lot more about that later. But there are challenges as well. The long distances in Chile, it's amazing the size of the countries. So, and plastic is very light, so also expensive to transport. And of course, if you want to close a value chain, you need to have access to the input material and you need to have access to a market. And that market is not that mature yet. So lots of challenges we can build on. Maybe as a teaser, at the end of this year, we will publish a plastic brochure, circular plastic, together with our most renowned science institutes, TNO, and we will send it to all the participants as well of this webinar. Next one, please. Because I want you to realize that we have a unique momentum. Circular economy has not become more urgent because of COVID. It's as urgent as ever, but there is far more awareness, and awareness creates momentum and support from industry, from inhabitants. So I tell you, if you look at the world and you see the awareness for circular economy, and especially the awareness also for plastics, this is a momentum you cannot miss as Chile. So keep on doing what you're doing and start implementing. I go back to the moderator. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Freek. Thank you for these interesting insights from the Netherlands, but also a quick look at the challenges from Chile. Our next speaker is Pieter van Os. He's program manager at CIRCO, and he supported companies and designers in 11 countries in developing a circular business proposition with the CIRCO methodology. Today, he will share the key design principles of the CIRCO methodology, the accumulated learnings of participating companies, and the role of designers in the circular transition with a focus on packaging. Pieter, I would like to give the floor to you.
Thank you, Stephanie, and good morning, everybody. Next slide, please. So Freek already pointed out the need to do something on the plastic from an environmental point of view. Next slide, please. And also the challenges for companies. And hopefully I can share something what we are doing that also contributes to the solution. We are one of the tools that has been developed in the Netherlands to come to new circular concepts, and we are called CIRCO, and we are a design program, and we operate on a product level, but also on a system design level. And our credo is creating business through circular design. So how can you use circular and circular design to improve your business and to stay competitive for the long run? We have facilitated about 800 companies around the world in 11 countries, and we also hand over our tools to designers to integrate circular design into their day-to-day business. We work in workshop formats, and so always several companies, multiple companies from a value chain participate, so there's also lots of knowledge exchange. And one of our focus areas is, of course, packaging. We believe that we should empower local hubs to use our methodology. So we have a partner strategy. We have partners in 4 countries in the world. One of them is Brazil. We don't have a hub in Chile yet, but if there is interest to do this class or track, then Antonia Biggs already said that we can organize something together with the Plastic Pact, so we can hear after the webinar if that's relevant. Next slide, please. So what I would like to do is to share our expertise and also evaluate if there is any opportunity to use the class here. Next slide, please. So going into the content, so this is the value chain, and many companies are really focusing on the left side, so on adding value, selling the product, and then never see the product back again. But in circular economy, the challenge is to retain value, and how can you use the value of a product as long as possible? And so next, please. How can you close the loops? Next, please. And we have a format called products that last. So how can you on a high R level reuse products or even use them for a longer period of time? And next slide, please. And so we go in on the design challenges for design for longer and more intensive use of products. So that's where we originally started with. But on the next slide, you will see that for packaging and for other low value materials, there's different starting points. Because if you have the moment of consumption, then the packaging loses value immediately, and the value can even become negative if the packaging ends up in the environment. So next, please. So you have another challenge, and that is to preserve the material value and organize efficient collection. And for that, we have another booklet, and that's products that flow. So how can you optimize the whole packaging and stream and product in order to optimize material value? Next slide, please. And so this is the tool set. So we have the design strategies on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you see how participants use that, and that they come with very different packaging and transportation concepts when you use the several design strategies. And I will give some examples on that starting on the next slide. Because if you look at the value hill again, then you have the products that flow, and you could say that is optimizing recycling. Next, please. And so the first challenge is, can you rethink the whole product and packaging concept? And then next, please. So that you don't have single-use packaging, but that you use packaging again, or you avoid packaging, and you can come back to the products that last framework that I presented before. Next slide, please. So there you have 2 design strategies. One is rethink. So can you avoid or substitute packaging, and you come with a totally different product packaging concept. And so on the picture you see Eosta, and they use natural branding in order to put all the information they want to put on the product. So you don't need any plastics or any packaging to distribute these kind of vegetables. Next slide. Another opportunity is to look if you can reuse the packaging. And so you change from a single-use product into a reusable product, and you also have more value in the product that you can use to reuse it and to have a business model along it. So this is Ozarka, and this is reusable packaging for fast food or for food. And they use a silicon tray with some PP in it, and it's rewashable. So after using it, you can reuse it again, you can wash it, and you can reuse it. And so there is a reuse system that is higher in the R hierarchy. Next slide, please. If this is not possible, and in many occasions this is really a challenge for companies, then you are in the products that flow arena, and you try to optimize recycling. And then the next, please. There are several opportunities. So one is how can you use less material, so reduce. The other challenge is how can you apply recycling, recycled or bio-based materials. And the other challenge is can you design for optimal recycling. Next, please. So looking at the first, that's on reducing the amount of materials. And here you see a very nice example of Unilever, who works with microcellular foaming. So they put some of this air within the layers of the packaging, and so you use less material on the one hand side, but also the whole product packaging combination has less weight. So it's also cheaper in logistics. So this is on reducing. On the next slide, you will see another thing, and that's on the recycling. So there are always two things in it. It's designed for recycling. So how can you design a product that is optimized for recycling? And so here you see that you have can easily separate the paper that is in it, and that's also recyclable again. But also, how can you use recycled content? So this example is a bottle for mineral water that is made of plastic that is fished in the Amsterdam channels. And so it's 100% recycled material. And of course, this is some sort of a gimmick, but you can use it also in a large scale. Then the next example is on biotic materials. So then you have to challenge, can you use renewable materials? And so if you look at this one, so this is made of potato starch, and it's totally industrial made. It has a footprint that's 80% less than normal plastic production. And if you work on this and you design this, you can also look for a good end-of-life solution. So if you can make it compostable, or you can improve the fermentation process. So these are the design strategies that we use and that we apply during the workshops. And then a totally other challenge, and I will not go too deep into this, is then how can you organize the flow? So there is an EPR system in Chile, or it's about to come. So there is something arranged, but how can you optimize the flow management, the reverse logistics, the separation and sorting, and also the recycling? And are you going to do that in a closed loop, or are you coming to cooperative systems with all suppliers? All relevant questions. We have tools for that, and maybe they can help individual companies, big or small, to make the first steps in order to become circular and to add to the EPR system that is coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pieter, for these insights and to show us how we could look at packaging to also look at the plastics problem. Our next two speakers will go into the circular economy and plastics in Chile and show us some local context. First, we have Linnet Solway, who is EuroChile's area director responsible for circular economy, and she's now working on the circular economy roadmap for Chile. Linnet, I want to give the floor to you.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Please, next slide. So in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to try to take you through the different initiatives that Chile is implementing to reach a circular economy. Next slide, please. So one could say it all starts with the EPR law that was already mentioned. So even though this was approved in June 2016, the conversations to actually create this law started well before, more than a decade ago, around 2009, 2010. And actually it's called Framework for Waste Management, Extended Producer Responsibility and Promotion of Recycling, because it's a bit more than just an EPR scheme. And currently it defines 6 priority products: packaging, tires, car batteries, lubricating oils, electric and electronic equipment. And the 2 that appear in bold here, packaging and tires, are the ones that are most advanced in the definition of their goals, recycling goals. And I'll get back especially to the packaging one a little later in the presentation. And then, as Ambassador Idema mentioned, in August 2018, Chile was the first country in Latin America to completely ban plastic bags, and actually this law entered into full force not that long ago in August 2020. Next slide, please. Then in April 2019, Chile was the 3rd country to join the Plastic Pact, and here I won't say anything else because Antonia will tell you all about this. And then, so actually 2020 has been quite a full year for circular economy and circular economy initiatives in Chile. So first of all, Chile, within its NDCs, and as Ambassador Idema mentioned, the circular economy is a very important tool, even at presidential level, and that's why within Chile's updated NDCs, they have made 3 commitments directly related to circular economy. One is the creation of a national strategy for organic waste, and this was published for public consultation not that long ago, a couple of months ago, so it will probably be finished early next year. The second commitment is the creation of a circular economy roadmap for Chile, and that's something we're working on right now, and I'll get back to it a little later. And the third commitment, which is a bit on a longer time frame, is the creation of a circular economy monitoring framework, also a very important milestone for actually making sure that circular economy is being implemented and reaching the right results. And just getting back to Stephanie, if you could just go back, I'm just going to comment on this last one, that in May 2020, the Supreme Decree that sets the recycling goals for the packaging sector were approved by the Council of Ministers for Sustainability and is now in its last iteration of ratification. And so here, I'm not going to go into detail of this table. I'm sure they'll share the presentation with you, but you can kind of see the progression of the goals. So supposedly this law should, or this decree should get into force around 2023, and then companies have 12 years to meet the full goals, which appear here in year 12. And you can see, even though it starts off with low levels of recycling, actually gets quite ambitious quite fast. So here there's definitely a big challenge for Chilean companies and also for plastic packaging. Next slide, please. And so as I was mentioning, there's all these different initiatives going on in Chile, right? But there was lacking you could say an overarching strategy or direction that would kind of help all these strategy row in the same direction. And that's why the Ministry of Environment decided to create this national circular economy roadmap with the time frame going from today, 2020 to 2040, recognizing that the transition is slow. And in order to do this, 3 other public institutions came on board. So together with the Ministry of the Environment, there's the CORFO, which is the Promotion and Development Agency in Chile, the Agency for Sustainability and Climate Change, and more recently, the Ministry of Environment are part of this committee that is kind of pushing for this national circular economy roadmap. And then EuroChile, where I'm working, and CBA, another institution, we joined early this year to go through all the participatory process, because we've been working with over, I would say, nearly 200 actors to create the roadmap. All through this year. The roadmap has 5 main objectives. 1, to connect all the actors in Chile working, and that should be working in circular economy. 2, a very important one here, to imagine this Chile circular, this circular Chile of the future of 2040. Reach consensus also about great changes and decisions that need to be made. For example, right now, a very important change that needs to be made is the economics of the waste management in Chile, where it's still much too cheap to just send to landfill. 4, design the actual strategy and the action plan, right? And then 5, position the topic of the circular economy in the country. So it's not just a small elite talking about this, but it really trickles through all of society, and you can have all these bottom-up strategies also coming up. And so for everyone, just wanted to mention here, so we have a strategic committee also made up of 33 actors of private, public, civil society, and academia, actually helping us create this roadmap, and also an international advisory committee where the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management of the Netherlands is also part of and helping us in all this process. Last slide, please. And just to finish off, so here are some of the cross-cutting goals we are setting or proposing by 2030 and 2040 for the roadmap. Actually, the public consultation, the document of the proposed roadmap will be presented on Monday for public consultation. So for all the Chileans listening to us, please note down this date and participate, because then the document will be available for approximately 5-6 weeks to receive all your comments and observations. And with this, I finish. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Linnet, for this interesting insights into the circular roadmap that you're creating right now. Definitely great to see that Chile shows some serious ambitions on circular economy. Now, Antonia Biggs, director of the plastic packs in Chile, she will tell us some more about how this plastic sector looks like in Chile. I would welcome you to the floor, Antonia. I hope you're there.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can hear me very well, right? So let's start with the presentation, please. Next slide. Okay, well, it has been said already, but it's worth reminding that the Chilean Plastic Pact is led by the Ministry of the Environment and Tourism in Chile, of course, under the Foundation Ellen MacArthur. As you can see on the right-hand side, we see the chronology. We were the third country, indeed, to have a plastic pact. It started in November 2018. As you can see today, December 2020, we already implementing the initiatives that were traced on the roadmap. Next slide, please. I would like to remind you, previous slide, please. I would like to remind you which are the 4 commitments of the pact, because they're very ambitious and they have to be fulfilled by 2025. First, to take actions to eliminate problematic plastic packaging and products that are problematic and unnecessary by redesigning innovation or alternative delivery models. And then 100% of these should be designed to be reused, recycled, or compostable. And a third of these home domestic and non-domestic plastics in products and packaging must be reused, recycled, or composted, and they should, in average, have 25% of recycled material. Next slide, please. This is the governance of the Chilean Plastic Pact. There is a strategic committee with the founding partners, supported by a technical committee and a communications committee. A group from Fundación Chile that coordinates the roadmap, and the work group with all partners are integrated at work every week to make progress on the initiatives. The groups are open innovation culture, dialogue, infrastructure, reuse, and circular design. Next slide, please. So, well, I will show you quickly, if you can go to the following, so you can see who participate in retail and services. Please, next. So we can, so the small plaza, Parque Arauco Sodimac, in consumers we have Plastic Oceans, Circular Lotus, in managers and municipalities. Next. We have Musar, Emensutel, Kiklos, Reciclamos, Ecológica, in recyclers. Next. With the producers, and can continue, please. Producers and brands, I won't mention all of them, but you will have a presentation. And some of our partners in this seminar will even present their own progress, but I wanted to show you that we have in the entire value chain of plastics is partners integrated. So because it's necessary to have a dialogue between all of them to make progress in the targets. Next, please. Here when we go into detail on the numbers, the packaging, plastic packaging flow in 2018, the sources are studies done in the Ministry of Environment and Studies by ASIPLA. And I would like to focus on the middle part, which says that packaging in the market are 731,000 tons. So please look at that. 0% goes to incineration, 89 ends up in landfills, and 4% in the ecosystem. And only 7% is recycled, which is also often lost on the road. So there is a recirculation which is effective of 4.4%. Next, please. Well, when we go into more detail in the numbers, the apparent total consumption of plastic resins is 990,000 tons per year. 80.5% of consumption is recycled, and there is capacity available to increase recycling. These numbers are from a recent study from ASIPLA. As you can see, only 48% of the installed capacity of grinding and crushing is used, and 57% of the pelletization capacity. Like the speakers have said before, with the ERP law, we hope that there will be a significant increase for the demand of recycling. So then using the free capacity that we have today. So it's important also, like we can see in the blue box, to make a difference between domestic and non-domestic recycled plastic. 70% come from domestic origin and 83% from non-domestic. In terms of recycling itself of domestic plastic, this is concentrated in PET with 50%, 55%, and the rest is PE and PP. I would like to finalize with these numbers. With the next slide, please. I would like to finalize telling you, taking into account these numbers, that we will we're making a look at call, which is called Plastic Evolution, an open call, taking into consideration these numbers and analysis of everything that we call, headaches of our partners, to be able to make progress regarding these targets and these goals. We will call upon people to have appropriate solutions. So please be very attentive, pay attention, because we will work with Chile Global Ventures, of course, and Foundation Chile and their pact. And Chile Global Ventures was highlighted as the best business consulting in a benchmark carried out by Corfo in this month. So the focus of this call will be two circular solutions of plastic packaging and solutions to increase recycling percentage of the packaging in contact with food. And this will be announced in more detail in the first week of January 2021, so that together we can look for the best solutions to advance in the objectives that we have in the pact and at public policy level on plastic waste management. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Antonia. Great to see that there's already happening a lot in the sector and that you already achieved quite a lot already. After your talk, Nestlé and Adelpa, who are both part of the plastic bags, are giving some insight in the local context from the business perspective. I would like to ask Nestlé first to take the floor. And Nestlé is a food company, and with that a buyer of packaging for their products and guiding in specifications related to sustainability and circular economy. Raúl Troncoso is responsible for sustainability at Nestlé, and he will share what they are doing and looking through circular economy as a business. Raúl, the floor is yours. Raoul, it seems that you have, are you here? It seems that you have some troubles. Oh, yes, there you are. Thank you. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Buenos días, espero que se encuentren bien.
Good morning, I hope that all you are okay. Thank the Embassy of the Netherlands and Chile for this invitation. Our vision as a company is that none of our packaging, including plastic, ends up in landfills or in waste, not even in the ocean and rivers. It's not only a noble idea, but we're working hard to obtain this and to obtain a future without waste, as you can see on the slide. The first slide, please. Our commitment has to do that with by 2025 we can get to 100% of our packaging to be reused or recyclable, reusable or recyclable. Next slide. The corporate sustainability, as we can say, is alive in our necessary purpose, and it is based on respect, which is universal, to improve the quality of life and better health in the country. We focus on several impact areas where we see that the families and people are interconnected, and the communities that should help us, and the planet itself, of course. Next slide. In the planet pillar for Nestlé, sustainable packaging is taken up. The environmental topics such as water and climate change are very important to the company. In broad lines, I can show you the packaging route, sustainable packaging route in Chile. Next slide, please. We have three great lines which we work on and we act on for packaging that should be recycled and reused. That's not only that, but also the material. We also want to promote the development of a local ecosystem app for recycling, and also for this to work, among all of us, we should create a cultural change. So there are three sequential steps, but they're not excluding. We have to design recyclable and reusable packaging and activate them so they can be recycled in the country. And finally, of course, everything that has to do with the sensitization towards the consumer. Next slide, please. In the first moment from 2017, in the first pillar, we have 1,273 fewer tons of material, and we're also developing innovative packaging with Packaging Global in Switzerland. These solutions include new delivery methodologies and refilling and reusing material. We're also working with them to do get to the reduction of packaging for use. Next slide, please. In terms of promoting the development of a local ecosystem, we, Nestlé, are participating in public initiatives to incentivize a circular economy in the country with the founding partners, until participating in waste management before the EPR law. We were the first ones to establish as a company an alliance for a delivery system with reused packaging, like we can see on the picture. So we estimate that if people can save 10% of material when they buy the products. Next slide, please. We understand that a part which is essential for our commitment to get to 2025 with 100% of our packaging to be reusable or recyclable, that implies a cultural change. And therefore, as a company, we have been working in these past years with different organizations of the Chilean state and companies to have a co-labeling system in the country. This has to do with the sensitization at home. That's why we also have a campaign, Hands to Recycling, for the population, and also to make our collaborators aware of a good use of recyclable material. Next slide, please. some the challenges that we would like to share with you. In Nestlé, we consider that successful recycling will require an adequate infrastructure, which is not always in place today. So we consider that the challenges we have in Chile, which can be pushed by collaboration, are the lack of infrastructure, specifically related to plastic material for consumption, from sorting, cleaning of packaging. And we also consider the geography of the country that was already mentioned. For example, the use of recycling points, selective recollection, etc. Added to this, we also consider that we should develop innovation related to recycling for the development of technology that can be adapted to the local reality. Next slide, please. Here there are two key points that I want to share with you, and as Nestlé, that we consider that apart from the commitment that we have by 2020 with our packaging, we also understand that the interest groups or the stakeholders at national level should ask the companies to go beyond, and the expectations of the consumers to be, and the ambition that we have to be one of the best food producers in the country. The next slide, and in that line, it is justified in this seminar that collaboration and long-term are key focuses to deal with sustainability, and also how packaging is dealt with. Next slide. Thank you very much for your attention to this brief introduction of Nestlé and its commitment to 100% towards 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Raoul. We now proceed with Edelpa. We have today with us Felipe Tonet. He's a general manager at Edelpa, and Edelpa designs and produces packaging and is a supplier to companies like Nestlé. We are interested to learn, of course, how Edelpa is working on circular economy and sustainable solutions for plastics and packaging. I would now like to give the floor to Felipe.
Buenos días, muchas gracias por la invitación.
Good morning, thank you for the invitation. With Edelpa, we want to say that we are a company that makes packaging, and we think that packaging has an added value in the recycling and sustainability chain, and there are many things that can be done in the circular economy and in the conversion. From the origin of the process, Edelpa is a company that has been in the market for 60 years. It's a company that manufactures plastic packaging. And we have in Edelpa 3 things that are very important. One is we have a solvent recovery plant that enables us to recover solvents and prevent them from coming into the environment and reduce emissions for the company. 3, we are connected to 100% renewable and non-conventional energy sources. So, which is fundamental of our work in conversion, is that we use energy from a noble source. Next slide, please. Well, like Antonia said, we are members of the Chilean Plastic Pact, and towards 2025, we're working on the same pillars. Next slide, please. In which we want to make sure that all our packaging is 100% recyclable, reusable, or compostable, and that 25% of our materials used in our products will be recycled material. This is a commitment that we have at company level, and it's a fundamental part of the strategy. We're working on this. There are still some years to go to make progress, but with this commitment, we need that our suppliers, our customers, and all that have to do with our work is aligned with this. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do we work on our main challenges? For, like Nestlé said, and we do, at the end of the day, when you work on a packaging and you define what the content is and the duration it will have, finally what you are defining is the composition of this packaging, and it has the packaging has a key role in a product is to contain it, give it shelf life, and to transport it. In this definition, when you define that the product should last 2 years, so it gives you solutions that have to do with materials that are not sustainable anymore. For example, when you have ingredients or preservatives, you have to work on this line to align this kind of products. So, and then we can reduce maybe the shelf life of the material based on its content. And the other things that have to do with the replacement of materials by more sustainable materials in the design of the packaging. Like Antonia said in her presentation, it has to be defined whether you want aesthetic aspects of sustainability, or that have to do with the material that or mixtures that are not recyclable. And at the eco-design level, we can reduce the number of grams of the product that you're making. So it is different to have a packaging of 100 grams per 100 grams or 80%. That is a reduction or by 20%. So our task is to reduce and to make more sustainable and recyclable packaging, and to select the material that can be used with the content of this product, so it can be transported and it has a shelf life, and it reaches our consumer, makes them happen. So this is an organic way, in a circular way. So the suppliers should be more sustainable. The producers should work with sustainable energy in a process under supervision and control. And that finally, the packaging has a second use or can be reinserted into the circular economy. Next slide, please. So this is what we talked about, what we the pact is really looking for, to reduce or remove packaging that we call one-way packaging that enters in as plastic and that ends up in waste, and that's a failure. So packaging has to be recycled, has to be able to reinsert it, and therefore the design is where the process is defined. Production, we try to do this at the lowest cost with sustainable energy and renewable energy, and with the minimum of residues possible, waste possible. So this intrinsically comes with a reduction. After that, when we distribute and that distribution chain is efficient, whether it needs cold or not, how it will be transported, when it gets to the consumer, they can have all the we can have all these selection tools for the content, the selection and segregation, and finally it ends up in recycling or recollection. So it is essential in the processes that we as packaging converters, we work on the 3 platforms in conversion. In our work with providers and suppliers to have more materials for sustainable solutions and alternatives that eliminate or replace materials such as aluminum or PVC that are not recyclable. And the third thing is that the material that is chosen by our consumers, Nestlé or Garossi or whoever who are participating or Unilever, choose a shelf life that enables us to work with packaging that fulfills these characteristics. So at these 3 levels, we will give the consumers tools so they can choose a packaging, that they can choose a product, and that a content fulfills the characteristics everybody has, that it lasts its shelf life, and that it can be transported, and that it gets to the doors of our consumers every day. That is our commitment as Codelpa. Next slide, we would like to tell you quickly, but the most important, next slide, the most important is in the design. Here we just defined whether the packaging will last 200 years or whether we'll have a next opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Felipe, but also thank you very much, Raul, for giving us some insights how circular economy in plastics and packaging is already happening in practice in Chile. From the local context in Chile, I want to proceed to Dutch showcases who also show circular economy in practice. We have today with us Sweep Smart and Up. Sweep Smart will tell you in a 1-minute video what they're all about, focusing on waste management. And I also want, before I start, I want to tell you, please post your questions in the Q&A, because these entrepreneurs are here as well to answer them right away in this Q&A. And after these pitches, we will proceed to the Q&A moderated by our embassy. Okay, enjoy the video.
Sweep Smart. Sweep Smart is a social enterprise that wants to solve the waste problem in emerging and developing countries. We make sure that the waste is collected, sorted, and then sold to recyclers. And we ensure that this is all done in a clean and in an efficient way, where we use our knowledge from Europe, but make sure that it works in the local context. We can set up the waste centers and the waste collection for whoever needs kind of to handle waste in their area. And as a project developer, we provide the equipment and the design of the whole building. Another one is more the procedures and the training of the waste workers. And then there's the IT part of it, where we set up a dashboard that can manage the entire operations. And we started with a pilot in Bangalore, where we set up 3 centers to show what we can do. And from there it grew. So we now set up 4 in India, 1 in Indonesia, and we're currently setting up another 11 in India.
Well, thank you for this short pitch. Sylvia de Vaan, the director of Sweep Smart, is here today. I want to ask her one question before we proceed to the next showcase. So, are you here, Sylvia? Please.
Yes, I'm here.
Nice to see you. Okay, so you have great projects going on already in Asia. What would you need to get started in Chile?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, what I hear, what is very positive from what I hear from the whole presentation is it seems there's a lot of energy and a lot of momentum and ambition in place and policy. So that's great, because that's things we do need. I heard that there are also some challenges, and one of the things is in sorting infrastructure. I heard mentioning, well, that's exactly what we do. So it sounds like there's a great opportunity for us to work there. What we would need is, I think, the right local partners. So usually we partner up with local waste management companies to help them build their capabilities, because we are not intending to become the local waste management company ourselves. So that would be very important, including connections with the related local governments as well. And yeah, it is also important for pilot projects to have people, or I would propose we start with a pilot project, and then you need someone to stick their neck out to fund it also. So this could be the corporates like Nestlé, for example, but also potential other funders. So that's for us the most important.
Well, thank you so much, Sylvia, for being here today. For everyone watching this webinar, Sylvia is also answering the Q&A directly. So if you have any questions for her, please don't wait and just post them already. I will now proceed with Up. Thank you, Sylvia. The next video is about Up, and they upcycle plastics. Take 1 minute to watch their pitch, and then we have Jan-Jaap Volmer here, the director.
Our world is drowning in plastic waste. This is painfully visible on our beaches and our oceans. Cities are struggling to cope with the tens of thousands of tons of plastic waste collected daily. 10% of this is being recycled. The rest, over 90%, is being burned, landfilled, and ends up in our rivers and oceans. We've developed the Up Circular Plastic Factory. This is a modular and containerized production unit that converts your plastic waste into products for your local market. I would like to take you on our journey to clean up your city, region, or island with our Up Circular Plastic Factory. You determine which products you want to make from your plastic waste to make your city clean again. It's my dream to make our world clean, green, and CIRCO.
Well, thank you, Jan-Jaap Volmer, for your video pitch. You are here today as well. I would like to ask you, looking at today's insights in the Chilean plastics sector, Jan-Jaap, if you're here, you can please open your camera and your microphone so we can hear you. In the meantime, yes. I will ask you the question. So after today's insights in the Chilean plastics sector and hearing from local companies, but also from initiatives like the Plastic Pact, what opportunities do you see for UP?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I was really impressed with what's going on already in Chile. If I compare that with countries where we are active in Southeast Asia, actually there's a lot happening and a lot more as well. I think the opportunities are predominantly in the local and regional areas, because our solution is specifically designed to close the plastic waste loop locally and regionally. So use your own plastic waste in your own region, produce that or convert that locally into products for the local market. And I think as well that because of the shape of Chile as an island, but also as a very long island, I think that regional solutions are the way forward for the circular economy.
Okay, thank you so much, Jan-Jaap. To everyone, please ask your questions to Jan-Jaap. He has very much more to tell about his solution, of course, and about how he thinks this could work in Chile. Ask him in the Q&A. We will now also proceed to the moderated Q&A. Linda Walstra, trade advisor from the Embassy of the Netherlands in Chile, will do the moderation. So Linda, I would like to ask you to please open your microphone and your camera so we can start the Q&A.
Thank you, Stephanie, and also thank you to all the participants that have already sent in many questions through the Q&A, and also many of them have already been answered by the speakers in the same chat, which is great. So maybe let me first ask a question to Felipe Tonet of Erelpa. Felipe, if you could switch on your camera. From what you've told us and what we see, you play an important role in designing the packaging. So I was wondering, what role do you play in trying to push your customers or stimulate your customers to move to more sustainable and circular packaging? What is your experience there?
Bueno, para contestar correctamente tu
to answer correctly your question, I would like to complement a bit what packaging is. Packaging has three roles. First role is to contain the product. The second role is to give it the shelf life or durability, and so it can be transported to the whole world. So there are products that are produced in Chile and packaged in Chile and that can travel on the world. And the third part is the aesthetic part. When you talk about these three worlds, so we have to see how we have to compatibilize these three areas. So how much marketing do I want to put into the product, or how much are I able, or am I willing to negotiate to work more towards the first? The second is what is most defined. When I say what ingredients will I use and what shelf life can the product have, then I should know whether I can do something which is more compatible to the environment. And the third thing is something very simple. Everything that we use is polyethylene, and it's very noble, polyester, and it's 100% recyclable because of its nature. So the question is what I will package and why, and how long is what defines clearly in its design of the packaging how the packaging will be able to be recycled. So this is how we have to think about how we work, both the companies that work with us in terms of marketing and the ingredients of the products to define how durable the packaging will be. For example, if I define packaging that's 100% made of paper, I can't package dehydrated water. I have to include other products into the packaging. But on the other hand, if I have a packaging with ammonia material, I can maybe negotiate a bit on the aesthetic part, and I can make it 100% recyclable. Maybe not a renewable, but 100% recyclable. And that decision is taken by three parts: the converter, the customer, and raw materials. So here clearly we see that design is key for the durability of that packaging.
Okay, so from what you say, it's always a mix and balancing of different items. Maybe Pieter from CIRCO can respond to this. What's your experience with this?
Yes, of course, it's a mix. And so that's why there are several design strategies. So you have to cater for the local or the specific circumstances for a product. So there was a question in the chat as well. So if you have a product and that is shipped by container to Europe, it's probably not very realistic to have a reusable packaging that you have to ship back to Chile and fill again. On the other hand, when you have a local consumer loop like the Osaka example, that people get food at the restaurant, use it at home and go to the same restaurant the next day, then you can use reusable packaging. So of course, you have a lot of functions of the packaging and they are different per type of packaging. And so then you have to consider what is on the three elements that were just mentioned. So what is important for me and where can I make circular interventions, and on certain topics you cannot. And so then you have to accept that you cannot change that maybe, or that you really have to rethink the whole concept. But so totally right, you have to take into account all functions of the packaging. And one important starting point is that we should not say that plastics or packaging that it's bad. So it has a very good function, and it also preserves the content that is 90% of the footprint. So please take that in mind, certainly when you make regulation. Yeah, super. Thank you very much, Pieter. We are a little bit out of time, 5 to 10 minutes, but the discussion is very interesting, so we hope you stick with us for another 5 to 10 minutes. I would like to use the time also to ask a question to Antonia from the Plastic Pact. You have the 4 promises or compromises that you described. So can you maybe explain, Antonia, what specific initiatives or specific challenges that have surged from the Plastic Pact where you see opportunities for international cooperation?
Yo justamente lo que presenté al
what I showed at the end, this open call this week, we'll publish this in different countries in Latin America, but it's open to all countries. So here, essential is collaboration, experience that other countries have had. If there are concrete solutions that we can offer to the members of the pact, that would be great. That kind of collaboration is collaboration we need. I'm thinking not only for Chile, I imagine for all the other pacts at the world level, that we need collaboration to have the moments. And I thank you again for this instance organized by the embassy, because things that could come, because I think that now many solutions could come up for the challenges that we have. And we also have this open call in January, which are collaboration moments and encounters that we have. So I would summarize it like this: it's a great opportunity for collaboration in terms of knowledge, progress, training that are offered as well for our members, and to be able to make progress faster in these 4 very ambitious targets and goals for very soon, 2025.
Thank you very much. And maybe as a last question for this Q&A, Freek from Holland Circular Hotspot, could you maybe share with us, there's plastic challenges all over the world. So also when I look from the perspective of a Dutch entrepreneur, we have several Dutch entrepreneurs joining this webinar as a participant. What makes Chile such an interesting party between all the options that there are?
Well, thanks, Linda, for asking. And actually, because I just have to repeat what some of the speakers already mentioned. I remember the ambassador already looking at Chile in Latin America. It's, let's say, the highest GDP per capita, stable. It's one of the most innovative countries in the region. It's the most innovative country in the region. The Dutch and Chile are already investing a lot together. Then look at the regulation. There is a circular economy roadmap. There is a plastic pack. There's the ambition to be climate neutral. Like Sylvia and Jan-Jaap Volmer, Dutch entrepreneurs who are also let's say, investing a lot on the other side of the world, are saying this is quite unique. You have something to build on. This is really fertile ground. So if we can team up, because in the end we need to collaborate, if we can team up with the multinationals, with forward-looking cities, with the entrepreneurs, I think it's the best place to be in the continent. Start working together. I think it looks really, there is fertile ground. It's a long way, it's a hard way, and we need leadership to close the loop. And I hope that by having collaborated together in this webinar, we have found some new coalitions and inspirations that we can close the loop locally. So I would love to be back in some time to see what has happened in Chile.
Thank you very much. So for now, I suggested we move on, but please, you can all keep asking questions through the same chat, and also the presenters will answer them there. But for now, I give the word back to Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Linda, for this very vivid Q&A. I think there's quite some nice interaction there. And I think there are some more questions still unanswered. So we will do our best to keep answering them, but also to send all the answers and questions to you afterwards. But for now, I have to round it up a little bit. So today we had talks from the Netherlands, we had talks from Chile, we had from both countries organizations already working on strategic national and international level, but also companies putting circular economy practice or working towards it. We saw Chile is working very hard towards reaching circular economy, has set some seriously ambitions and regarding plastics, and circular economy is happening today already in both countries. We learned how circular economy starts with design from CIRCO, but we got reminded that the time is now and that we shouldn't wait for the perfect moment to get started. So I just hope that you found some inspiration here today to proceed working on circular economy and to find the right partners to do it. I think if you are searching for the right partners, you're now at the right spot, because this is an international trade mission and there will be some next steps afterwards. So please don't leave already. I'm wrapping up, but Linda Walstra will tell you in a moment how this will proceed. So for now, I just want to thank all the speakers for being here today, for your valuable contributions. I want to thank all the attendees for being here, for your interest in collaboration, and for your interaction in the Q&A. And of course, I want to give an extra thank to the companies being here today, Edelpa, Nestle, but also SweepSmart and Up, for showing us circular economy is already happening today, and to share your knowledge today here in this webinar. So for now, I just want to give the floor back to Linda Walstra for a formal word of goodbye, but last but not least, the next steps our audience can expect after this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. And well, also on behalf of the embassy, thanks to all the speakers and the participants for joining us today. As an embassy, we also always try to bring the two countries closer together, exchange knowledge, and also look for opportunities for cooperation. As a follow-up to this webinar, we offer the service of matchmaking between Dutch and Chilean interested parties. These will be one-on-one meetings taking place in January and has no cost. So after this webinar, you will receive an email with also the presentation and the recording, and there will be also indications on how to sign up for these one-on-one meetings. Then Also, I want to stress that at any time you can contact the embassy regarding questions. Personally, I am responsible for circular economy related to waste management, including plastics, but also mobility and renewable energy. So please do not hesitate to contact me regarding these topics. And for now, we will end the webinar with a video from Invest Chile. Invest Chile is the government agency promoting foreign direct investment in Chile and also offers excellent services for companies that want to invest in Chile. So please enjoy the video and we hope to see you soon.